So a good idea before you do any tensioning is to give it a good cleaning. And we cannot have this. Well, no, we can do that. Everybody knows about safety clutches.
Mm-hmm.
Marla, you know about safety clutches? If your machine all of a sudden freezes and you say, oh my God, I've completely fucked this up, it's probably the safety clutch. If nothing seems to be working right, the hook doesn't seem to be coming around, there's a safety feature on these machines that if you do something that's not designed to do, it will blow the safety clutch, which will throw the timing completely out. And you'll think you've destroyed the machine. That's what this button is. You push this button down and you hold it. And instead, you normally pull the flywheel towards you. You push it in the opposite direction until you hear the safety clutch engage. You'll hear a click and then you'll be good to go. You're like it never happened. Okay? It's also in your book. All right. You should start out with a thorough cleaning. Really clean everything up. Canned air. Whatever, we're almost, at least we are almost out of Bobbin. We'll change that out. If anybody hasn't seen that, my petrified piece of cardboard.
What's that for?
That's because metal on metal down here, it wants to really accelerate, and you're going to get a lot of like wraps and stuff like that if you don't find a way to break that barrier. So we punch a hole with a hole punch, and it's usually a piece of cardboard from something. If it's too thick, you'll know it. So what you want to do is you want to throw that in the bottom on there. Then you want to get your if you put this down in here, and you push this down like that, if this doesn't spin freely like that when you put your finger on it, okay, it's because the cardboard is too thick. Okay, if that's the case, you want to peel a layer of the cardboard off until it's not. And just the action of this bobbin spinning at high speed and everything kind of will petrify that thing after a while. And I like it better than a spring. The 867 has a spring that works pretty good. The ones that Sam sell, I mean, some people use them. I don't like them. I like the cardboard, but that's just me. So this pulls counterclockwise through the hole, past the finger release finger. I put my finger on the bobbin and I give it a yank. That sets it under the spring. Okay. Now I can bring this down, pick up the thread like I usually do, which brings it up through the hole in the feed dog. If you have thread breakage issues, and I'm doing this for the benefit of Marlo's wonderful video that he's going to send to me, you can pull this around like this, and if there's something that's sharp or bad on the feed dog that needs to be smoothed out, that will break. The thread will break, and you know the problem is in that area. By the same token, if you have a problem here, you can pull this out and bring this around the corner. And if there's a problem with the needle or a burr in the needle or a burr in that hole, you'll know where it's coming from. Also, this is the lead in along here. You want to feel this with your fingernail. If there's any grooves or anything that catches your fingernail when you put your fingernail along it, you want to smooth that maybe with a little piece of emery paper. And then finally out to the hook. If you can take your fingernail and run it off the hook and it's smooth, usually everything's good. If you feel a nick or something there, you can either use a hook stone, and you always go from this direction, that direction. Just a couple of swipes is usually enough. Freddie taught me to just take a jackknife on edge and just flick it off the tip, and that will take care of a lot of the issue. Right. pretty much down to the end, so Debbie didn't see this. Expensive PTFE thread down the tubes. Okay, so we can set this up to wind, and for you guys that haven't seen this before, we go from the inside to the outside, through the hole, sort of like doing a bowline, except you don't go back through the hole again. And I set this up and that jams the thread against it. We can push that down. That way you don't have to do this thing with a thread. And everybody's got a different way of doing it, that's fine. You also want to put a drop of oil right here between the bobbin case and the hook assembly itself and the bobbin case, because that spins quite a bit. And then I put a drop of oil on my finger, and I like to rub the needle bars every once in a while. I don't do that as often as usually every other bobbin change I'll put a drop of oil in the bobbin basket. That's gonna extend the life of your machine considerably if you do that. This is a high wear item. I mean, there's other wear items too. The 1508 has a screw up here. Take the screw out, throw it away, make it get lost because it's got a magnet. It makes it easy to open and close it. All right, so now we got a very small screw. That's the one to the left. And I have to put on my Coroner's glasses here. Now I'm going to back this off. Sometimes it's easier just to use the little screwdriver they give you with it because you can feel it better. Now I'm gonna end up messing this up quite a bit by doing this. This is why a lot of people don't mess with this. Sometimes it's easier if you. Sometimes it just gets messed up by constant adjustment, you know. Now I'm turning this counterclockwise, that little screw, to relieve. What it does is it changes the pull tension. That's considerably lighter than what it was, so I'm going to keep going. It's hard to turn this, get the screw in there. That's at a pretty light setting. Let's see if I can go any more. What you don't want to do is lose that screw. Okay, I'm just about ready to lose it right there. So I'm going to go back in about a quarter to a half a turn. Right about there. I'm going to stop it. That's about right. Okay, now I'm going to take this thread tension. I'm going to back that off. I don't want to go too crazy. Now I have this through here and this through here. And I'm going to start stitching. And I usually set them in just 2 ploys. And usually, I think almost the longer the strip, the better. Well, I just so happen I'm folding along the weft, the easiest way to fold fabric, and the way you should be running all your reinforcements. So I'll start going right along that edge. And this is really going to look kind of screwed up, probably. Oh my God, I can't believe it. It's really good, it's very close. I'm just a little bit more tension on both. Run a little further. So, what? I've got it perfectly balanced already.
That's a short video.
No, don't turn it off yet, Marlo. Not done. When you look at this, you're looking at a stitch, you're looking at the top. This is where we stitched it from, right? This is the top, that's the back, right? You can look at it. You can tell if the tensioning is wrong because you can, I can almost see it here. If you look carefully, you can see the knot starting to surface, which tells me that we don't have quite enough bottom tension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here, and I don't want to do much. I want to do an 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn at a time. That's not much to adjust. That's just a little bit. I'm going to run it a little bit more. That's better. I think the needle needs to be changed because I got a little bit of riffraff being cut through, but basically the stitch is now balanced at the lightest possible tensioning. So you'll see this, it's pretty flat. And if you had your tension too tight, you get a lot of scrunch along there. Fortunately, we're folding it in the direction of the weft. That's always going to lay better than folding in the warp direction. The warp direction is going to give you puckering. That's why I tell everybody to run your salvage edge or your warp front and back on fabric because you get the least amount of stretch and you get the least amount of seam scrunch, especially when you're going side to side. But if you go side to side and you run your fabric roll across the bimini where the weft is going front and back, you're going to get a lot of puddling and a lot of stretching, and you're going to get a lot of seam scrunch. Okay, so if you look at this, if you see it, you should never see, in other words, you should just see loops on this side and loops on this side. Don't mistake a surfacing loop for a needle that's maybe hasn't been changed in a while. That will take some of that fabric. The needle's piercing the fabric, and it's going to take some of that fabric and force it through to the back side. So the back side's always going to look slightly different. But what you want to look for is to see that the actual stitch is buried in the center of the fabric and doesn't surface on one side or the other. So if this is the top, and I looked at the top and I saw the stitch surfacing on the top, I would adjust the bottom tension. I would tighten that up. If I looked at the bottom and I saw the stitch loosening up, I would adjust the top tension. Or vice versa, you could go back and you could relieve the bottom tension. People always tend to go in the direction of the least amount of tension, and that's really not correct. You should try to balance at the lowest possible tension with the stitch being in the middle of the fabric, okay? And it's opposite of what you think. If you see a problem on the bottom side of the fabric, if you see a problem on the bottom side of the fabric here, the adjustment is on the top end. If you see something on the top end that's not right, on this, what you're looking at when you're stitching, it's an adjustment on the bottom. And there's two ways you can go, and that's why thread tension can get so confusing. But the correct school of thought on this is everybody, the first thing they go for is these knobs, and they want to crank them down, and you're going to end up getting a stitch that's going to be probably too tight. And if you're stitching something like Weathermax, it's a kiss of death. You want to be really loose with your thread tensions when you're sealing, and you want to have a low walking height, which is adjusted in behind here like I showed you earlier, and you want to have a minimum amount of foot pressure. Now the trouble with Weathermax is when you stitch Weathermax, you want to have the least amount of foot pressure you can get, but it's a fine balancing act because Weathermax is slippery, and if you don't have a certain amount of foot pressure, besides having loose balanced thread tensions, is being able to feed it effectively. Okay, so the best thing to do is to take a piece of Weathermax, cut a strip, get everything set. And the other thing is when you're feeding fabric, when I'm feeding fabric, I just gotta put the speed up. When you're feeding it, something you probably don't see, but if you look at people that do production work day in and day out, they're always grabbing the front and the back, and it's like, oh, like that, and really fast. You see them and they say, geez, how do they do that so good? The whole thing is, most people will just stitch like this, right? See what happened there? Got a little pucker in there. I always use grappling fingers, and I grab it. And if you got any kind of, like if you, especially like when you're doing weathermacks and that kind of stuff, you pull this out, you want to pull it like that. Let the machine take it at its rate, but hold it out. Don't hold the machine back. It's just a matter of getting used to it. I'm pulling the front and the back, but I'm letting the machine. Now if I went and held back on this, see what's going to happen? You know, if I went, see how long that stitch is? I pulled it, right? Okay. I'm holding it back. Look at that stitch. See how close it is? Okay. The other thing is, you're stitching along, right? Watch what happens when I hold the top thread tension. It doesn't like it very much. See how it's all surfaced there? Let me cut off a piece here. You can see how it's all surfaced, right? Now, I didn't actually get into the area, but anytime you, I'm careful, I don't want to do it too much. Okay. You can see right there, see how it's surfaced on that side? And see how easy it is to cut? Watch this. I'll cut that right there, and I can probably pull it out from here. Well, see what I'm saying? You should never be able to do that. Well, I went past the area that, here's, this will pull out here because it's, okay. That's all because I held the top thread tension. Okay, I whacked everything out. So, you can see what just a little bit of stuff there. That's why when people are doing binding, you know, and I'm sorry, but right angle binders are a curse to the canvas industry.
Can I see those pieces? The stitches?
Huh?
Can I see those pieces?
Yeah. Is a curse to the canvas
Is it a
industry
right
because
angle binder?
why? Because they create.
They swing out of the way.
If you have a binder like this, and you're running binding, you're running your binding through this, right? If you have any kind of a back pressure resistance, in other words, you're running this through here, okay? And this is a straight binder. If it doesn't pull nice and easy through that like that, you're gonna have a problem. You're gonna bunch that edge. You're gonna have puckering. You're gonna have all sorts of other issues. That's why I'm a big advocate of the fixed mount, no swing mount, fixed mount, straight binders. 5/8 of an inch back from the needle from here to here, and you can tweak it so that this is pulling through.
Ignore me, just dropping this off.
What is it?
I'm from the Fairfield Marriott.
Oh,
And you're
okay.
in middle
Thank you.
class, so ignore me. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, now they're kissing ass. Oh well. Anyways, where was I? I was talking about back pressure. Okay, a right angle binder goes like it comes like that, comes in from the side like this, and then it goes like this and opens like that. Okay, it kind of does this. So it's, let me bend that open. That's the idea, and the idea is so you can get in close and be able to go around corners easy. But it creates a ton of back drag. That's why Sailrite sells that soft stuff, so it'll feed through. It's an acrylic binding that's soft, but it won't last. It's like the centerfold binding. They take a thread out of the middle so you can centerfold it. That edge, once it gets any kind of abrasion, you got failure. That's no good. You know, there's a lot of products out there that people just want to sell you. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily right for the application. You kind of have to read between the lines a little bit. This little binder, I can go on all inside curves. It's all about folding the fabric. You guys have all seen that before. I won't go through it. So that's really it. I have balanced the tensions at the lowest possible setting. And that's it. And having low thread tension will reduce your seam scrunch, will provide all sorts of benefits. Knowing how to adjust the foot pressure, the walking height of the foot, the thread tensions, the stitch length is all gonna make what you make a better product. You know, especially stuff like Weathermax and those kinds of things. That's it.
Awesome.